Hi, my name is Lisa Dees. Welcome back to our Faith Farming and Family Devotional Session 2. If you're following along or just kind of want to know, we're doing the Faith, Family, and Farming by Caitlin Henderson, and it is a wonderful book, but it's also a really good devotional. Today's study is called Anything, Learning to Give Up Control, Learning as You Go, but her title is Anything. When you think about that word, it's kind of one of those, I'll do anything, or whatever it takes. It's one of those. But when you really think about the meaning, would you truly do anything when you're desperate? So let's go ahead and dive in. In April 2018, she says that I came to a breaking point. All I could see were struggles and heartache. She had a sick child, a very sick child, not just flu. We're talking cancer type sick. A failing market for crop prices, and when your entire livelihood is farming, um, crop prices mean a big thing. A record-breaking drought. I mean, we're talking your livelihood is crops and farming and animals, and you have a drought where you can't water anything, and that's a pretty big deal. And a strained marriage, and if anybody's been there, you know that that can send you into something that feels a little desperate sometimes. I had no power against the big trials, and the feeling of being defenseless overwhelmed me. How many of you have been there where the feeling of defenseless is overwhelming? I've been there a couple of times, but luckily, here in just a second, we're going to go through some steps of how to not be there. During the height of my anxiety, I remained fervent in prayer, but I couldn't get a grip because I'd lay my burdens at the cross and not 5 minutes later I'd pick them back up. Yep, I understand that. I didn't truly believe God could handle them better than I could. Do you ever feel like you can handle things better than God? Do you ever think that if I hang on to this control and I just keep working and I keep doing this, I'll take care of it instead of relying fully on God? Because sometimes our fleshly, our human side, our worldly side will think that and try to do that. But ultimately, that will not win out. Without God, you you have no control whatsoever over any of these circumstances. So, on a cool spring morning, as my kids played in the living room, I went into our bedroom, hit my knees, and sobbed into the carpet. With puffy eyes and a heart in shambles, I told God I was tired of my bones. I was tired to my bones of trying to fight for control. Anything, that's the word, anything, in quotations, that was her word. I sobbed it over and over. Anything, anything, anything. You can have anything from me, God. Anything. My children, my husband, the farm, our possessions, our comfort, our safety. Anything. And when you think of it in that terms, what about your job? What about your transportation? What about the food on your table? All the little things, even the little and the big. Can God have anything? And that's where she was at. She was so overwhelmed. She was so defenseless. She was so beaten down by the devil. All she could think was anything. She couldn't think of a full prayer. She couldn't think of what to do next, but she could think to call out to God and say, anything. I have anything. I will give you anything. You can have anything from me. It is all yours. Anything. And those were her words. Anything. Over and over. Every day I prayed the word anything over and over, like a reminder to me and God that I still meant it. I kept expecting something big to happen, and little did I know that saying anything was about me working on my own heart. It was about being willing to say, I'm here, use me however you need me. Do we ever forget to let God use us? Because I think a lot of us do. We get so caught up in our world, our family, our job, our expectations, school stuff, going back to school, kids' school, taking care of your grandparents, taking care of your parents, helping your next door neighbor. We get so caught up in taking care of things and having control over things and just what we call everyday life that we forget to have a heart check and let God use us. And that was her thing. When she started using the word anything, she realized that God was working on her, and it had more to do with her than it had to do with our outside struggles. And once God starts working on your heart, those outside struggles seem to have a way to work themselves out, aka God works them out for you. That one word prayer changed my life. It opened my heart to trust the God of the universe to handle my life. On the other side of surrender, I found the freedom and ability to focus on God's commandments. Whew, that's good. On the other side of surrender, I found the freedom and ability to focus on God's commandments. So if you're following along in your Bible, go ahead and flip to Proverbs 16 and 9. Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. And when you think about that, we do have a plan. God doesn't take away our choice. We still have our choice. We have our plan. We can, plan to move forward, whatever way that is. But the Lord establishes our steps. And the closer you are to Him, the more your steps align with the steps that He is wanting for you. And not like all the hard stuff goes away. It's still there, but it's easier to manage. It's easier to come up to and be like, okay, God, I know you've got this time. I'm not going to pick it back up. I know this is yours. And then you keep moving forward. So Proverbs 16:9. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. What would happen if you told God anything? What if you gave Him your whole heart and quit putting your energy and emotions into trying to do your will, but instead try to do His? So I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit of a control freak myself. I like to have control. I know I have none. I know it's an illusion. But I like to think I have a planner, and I like to put in dates, and I like to know when things are going to happen, and I like to plan things out. And if we're doing a family vacation, I'll plan it months in advance, and I don't like last minute changes. I like to plan things. And then when she says, quit putting your energy and emotions into trying to do your will, but instead try to do His. I try to do that already. But when you really think about that, how much time and energy do I put into things that I am trying to control? When the truth is, if I'm a child of God, He has already got it and He's already taken care of it, and it's in His timing, and it may not be the way I want it or the way I feel it should go, but it is perfect in His way. And that is something that even now, after all these years, I still have to remind myself sometimes, because I'm just like her. I'll pick that burden back up. I think, okay, I've got a plan. We'll do this, and this is the next step, and we'll do this, and this. It's all going to work out. And I have to take a step back. I have to lay it at God's feet, and I have to remember to give it back to Him, because He is the only one who can take care of it. He's the only one with the true control over any of it. Flip to Philippians 4:7. Philippians 4:7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. And the peace of God. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, especially right now with it being Christmas time and everything, and just the peace of God when it washes over you. It's truly, it says it transcends all understanding, that's so true. You just can't even put in words when you feel that peace of God. It's just like a breath, a relaxation. It's so many different things, but you can't put it into real words. I can tell you what would happen. You would have peace that passes all understanding. You would struggle with picking those burdens back up, but if you cling to that word, anything, then something would change, and the new heart He placed inside your chest would slowly pour out into the open. Isn't that beautiful? Peace that passes all understanding. That peace in God is a peace like no other. And if you have felt it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't felt it, I pray that you do, because it is just you just take a breath. It feels like the weight is lifted. It feels like you're lighter. It feels like you can breathe and you can relax. It just feels like a big giant warm hug. I mean, there's so many things that it feels all at once that you can't put it in full words. for someone to understand. But once you have that peace of God, once you feel that peace of God, oh, you're going to crave it and you're going to want it and you're going to strive towards that. And that is just really beautiful for everybody. So for the discussion part, again, I'm getting used to talking to a screen, so bear with me here. What illusions of control do you still cling to? Whether you're a new follower or you've been following your entire life or you've just rededicated or you're just going through a really rough time and you keep picking that burden back up, what illusions of control do you still cling to? When the world is spinning out of control, do we seek control of our own to feel safe? I think that's a yes. I think a ton of us, when our world is spinning out of control, when you're going through the trials and the tribulations and the chaos, and when everything just seems to be going wrong all the time and is so bad you just don't even know what to do, we try to control so we feel like we create, this safety around us. But the truth is, without God, you don't have any of that safety. You need Him for that hedge of protection. You need Him for that strength. You need Him for any of those circumstances, no matter how bad they are. If you have Him on your side, you will get through it. He will work with you. He will, it's like it says over in Proverbs, He establishes their steps. He's establishing your steps now, and all you have to do is be following Him and moving forward and moving towards that. And those steps are there for you. And that's really, really nice to think about sometimes, because I'm a recovering control addict. But when I have to remind myself to take a step back and be like, okay, God, I know I don't have this. I need you to take it from me right now. And I'm verbal. I have to say it out loud to God sometimes. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I even do the motions like I'm handing it back to Him. But when I do that, it's so nice to know that I do that and the steps are already there, and I just keep moving forward in Him, and He's going to take care of me no matter what these circumstances are right now. What might it take for you to surrender anything to God? What might it take for you to surrender anything? That her word is anything to God. That is different for every person. For me, to surrender anything to God means that I have to remember that no matter how difficult it is for my walk right now with my husband or my children or our home or our future children, that if they're God's children, they're not mine, so I can't control them anyways, control the situations, control what's happening, and they are God's children, and they're just here for me to take care of. But for me to surrender anything, when you really think about that, surrendering anything, does that mean that if you have a family member dying of cancer and you just don't want to let go, do you let go? If you're out of a job and just cannot find a job no matter how hard you try, you've applied at 100 places and been rejected 100 times, and then you reapply at some of those places, and then you leave, open doors. Hey, if you have anything open up, I'll take it. And you just can't get a job. Do you just give that to God? I'm not saying you quit trying, but do you give that? Do you just finally say, anything, God, just take this from me. If you don't need me to have a job right now, then show me what I do need. If you need me to have a job right now, then show me what that job is. And just give it back to Him. Quit the worrying. Trust me, that was hard. I still have that problem. I'm a worrier. And just give it back to Him and say, anything, God. Whatever you want, I will do anything. Put it in front of me. Give me a sign. Speak to me right now, and I will do anything. And I think it's wonderful that we have a God we can say that to, where He doesn't think that we're being childish or we're giving up, because He knows the intent of our heart. We can say anything, and He automatically knows what we're saying. We don't have to try to specify to God. He already knows our heart. So if we're trying and then we're to that point where we can't even have words and we're just crying and we're thinking anything or wanting, just God already knows. And just remember that. He already knows the intent of your heart. So if you're to that point, like she was, that breaking point, that defenseless, overwhelmed, I can't do anything in the big trials moment, just remember, God already knows your heart. And surrender to him. He's already marked that path for you. Do we ever really have control, or do we just think we do? And how do you give it all to God? So those are kind of two questions. So let's break it down. Do we ever really have control, or do we just think we do? I always joke about the illusion of control. Now, that being said, God's not saying don't get up at whatever time and take your kids to school and then get up and go to work. That's not what it's saying. But as far as the illusion of control, I have no control over my kids' safety. If they're going to die in a car accident, then that's what's going to happen. If I'm going to die in a car accident, that's what's going to happen. If a tornado takes out our house, that's what's going to happen. I don't have control over those things, but God does. God has control over all of those things, over all of our circumstances. He has control over everything from as little as, well, I don't think a lot of things are little, so let me change the way I say that. But he has control over for everything from your household to your church to your schools to the government, and then bigger and bigger. And he has control over all of that. And I think our illusion of control comes in where, I'm going to seatbelt him in extra tight and nothing's going to happen to him. No, I have to remember to give that to God, because I don't have that control. God has that control. I give my children to God every day. I pray a hedge of protection around them. I do my part, but then I have to remember, when it all boils down to it, they are his children. He has them. He's going to take care of them in whatever way he's going to take care of them in. How do we give it all to God? I think for a lot of people, this is something that we do on a daily basis, and sometimes multiple times a day and over, until it finally becomes something that's kind of natural. Just like last time we talked about facing that fear. And the more you face it and the more you face it, it becomes easier and quicker to recognize and easier to rebuke out of your life. Giving control to God can be the same way for some people. Sometimes it takes steps. You think about it, okay, I took back the control here. I'm giving this back to God. Okay, God, this is yours. And then in a couple of days, when you realize, oh, I've picked this back up, give it back to God again. And before you know it, you're going to start catching yourself when you can feel yourself picking that back up, taking that burden back on. And you're going to start recognizing it quicker. So instead of in a couple of days, I noticed maybe that day, oh, okay, God, I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought I'm not going to do this. This is yours, back at your feet. And then pretty soon it's going to become, in some circumstances, the second you feel yourself picking it up, you can stop and just give it right back to him. And it's one of those things, sometimes you have to do it over and over and over to develop. Kind of, it's like growing your relationship in another area, just developing your relationship. It's teaching you how to give it over, teaching you how to recognize the devil attacking, because recognizing the devil attacking is part of recognizing that I'm picking up the control, because the devil wants me to do that so that I'm anxious and worried and have anxiety and depression and whatever else. The devil wants that for me. So he's the one who wants me to pick it back up so that I feel all of those things. And the quicker I start to recognize him, the quicker I can give things back to God and not pick them up when I'm not supposed to. And I think all of her lessons kind of go back to that. And most devotionals, I think, do. Going back to recognizing the devil quicker so you can rebuke him out of a situation, so you can tell him to get out, to get gone, put him under your feet. You have the power of God because you are God's child. His power flows like through you, so you get to say, not today, devil, not today. And I think that's what a lot of devotionals, especially ones like her, are getting back to. When you recognize the devil faster, you can rebuke him out of your life faster, and you can call on God quicker, or the other way around, call on God quicker, rebuke the devil faster. But I think especially in this one, when we're talking about learning to give up control, and a little bit learning as you go, that word anything, it in this situation is about control, but anything also I think relates to building a relationship with Christ so that you call on him faster and you rebuke the devil faster. But I guess that's just my opinion on it. So today was a little shorter, and that is all right. Some are a little longer. In 2 weeks, there's a really long one, so trust me, I'll blab on for a while. I hope you ladies are enjoying it and getting something out of this. And again, bear with me while I learn to talk to a screen and get better at preparing this for a one-way conversation. And as always, if anybody needs anything or just wants to talk or visit or wants a church to join, Walika Assembly of God is where my dad, Robert Bray, preaches. And I teach the women's ministry on Monday nights. And there's church all the time. And there's a food bank if anybody ever needs anything. And I know in the Walika area and the Okima area, there are lots of local churches. I'm sure somebody somewhere can get you in touch with them. And if you're not going to church somewhere, I hope this maybe inspires you to think about going, or if not, maybe this helps you with that step of just rekindling or rebuilding a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I love you all. Thank you for watching. And this is just wonderful. Thank you guys.